Okay, we are on the starting with the 46th Sutra today. I just want to I lost a comment from one of the other videos, and I just wanted to respond very quickly. We basically asked, how do we know this is your truth? And the answer to that is you will be drawn to this material, and it will it'll meet you with a hug, and it'll show you that this has been your experience, and it will show you that it is your truth. The material itself proves itself out. And then there's this union with the material, I guess you could say, where you know that you came home, in a sense. You made it home, because you know, and we went through the sutras. So it's just not being hokey. As we're going through the sutras, we're seeing the phases of this as well. Early on, you have devotion, you practice, bhakti yoga, and then, it goes on, and as you progress, there's a need for knowledge. And then we begin to absorb the material, and this in conjunction with, what we had discussed in the book earlier, asana, meditation, pranayama, all these things. So these things come together, but we know then there's no question whether this is our place and what we should be studying or not. Look, we're studying the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, but all of these books, if we're honest, it's all pointing to the same thing. And it's said that the Yoga Sutras, the New Testament of the Bible, and the Bhagavad Gita are the three primary books of the aspirant or disciple, right? So we're doing the thing. So now and then we know. Yeah, there's a lot more. We can go on talking about other materials that are out there, but essentially, if we're studying the theosophical books, then you're going to know that. And I don't know which ones some people take to the secret doctrine and hold on to that, but the secret doctrine has brought keys with it. But then the blue books, the Ageless Wisdom, the Alice Bailey books, brought the psychological key, which is much more for the individual, as to where, if you look at the secret doctrine, it's kind of like induction versus deduction, or vice versa. That's the big picture coming down into the man, and then now we're understanding the man, the nature of humanity, the nature of life on earth as a human. So it's all just so amazing. But we know if this is our home, if this material is our home, and it's so broad. It's just, and then it's a matter of giving up, probably letting go of trying to understand it, right? We're not trying to pick it apart and understand it, like, each and everything. We absorb these things now. We're watching this event. We're the observer. You would go crazy if you tried to understand all of this. This is not what we're doing. we absorb it, and we let the process of invocation, evocation work, and at some point down the road, bits and pieces come together, and it says, oh yeah, that's what, of course, that's what that was all about. Oh, that first book of the Yoga Sutras, all these things all make sense now. And then, oh, I remember that from these other, it's just all comes together and to make a whole. We're not trying to pick apart individual pieces, just as we're trying to look at this whole screen of our experience as one whole, and not delve into the individual aspects of it either. Okay. Very beautiful. I appreciate, I'm happy to get questions like that. And that's encouraging that people are moving in that direction and reading these things. And you made it. Don't, it's almost like, welcome. You made, if you're coming to this material at all, this is a long road to get to this. That's you will not get to this until you're ready for it, and you certainly won't. Even if you did, you wouldn't stay around, I don't think, until you're ready for it. And if you did, and if you did and you didn't think you were ready, well, you probably were ready. You just didn't know it yet. This stuff is just so amazing. And I'm still reading at night. Now I've been reading the Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East in conjunction with this. And it really is an awesome contrast, because it's showing you automatically like where this material goes. So now you can see, like, you can put your eye on the prize and understand the results of this at a much further along place than maybe where we're at right now. Even though we should be seeing results as well. If we look carefully, certainly we would be. All right, so Sutra 46. Symmetry of form, beauty of color, strength, and the compactness of the diamond constitute bodily perfection. Though many commentators give to this sutra a purely physical interpretation. Yeah, this is where we're different already. We're looking primarily from the energetic side of this. And if we look physically, it's going to be secondary, because we know that the physical is the effect. So they give to this sutra a purely physical interpretation. A much wider concept is involved in it. We have pictured for us in carefully chosen terms, of which the English is but a paraphrase, lacking the expression fully to convey the idea. The condition of the third or form aspect through which the second or Christ aspect is manifesting. In it we have pictured for us, in carefully chosen terms, the condition of the third or form aspect through which the second or Christ aspect is manifesting. All right, so we're talking about activity, the third aspect, intelligent activity here. This aspect is itself triple, as the rest are, yet forms one coherent whole, and hence I'm sorry, I'm just thinking now. every aspect I want to say has, it's triple. But I don't want to overstep my bounds there. That's, I believe I remember that. It's being said, and this third aspect is itself triple. I don't see how, yeah, okay, we're going to keep going. Yet forms one coherent whole, and hence the use of 4 terms to express this lower personal self. The occultist never concerns himself with the dense physical plane. He considers the etheric body to be the true form, and the dense as simply the material used to fill in the form. That's a big perspective switch right there. Certainly, big perspective switch. An etheric vision would be beneficial up front, but I don't think that's how it goes. I think it comes later. The etheric body is the true substantial form, the framework, the scaffolding to which the dense body necessarily conforms. This form must be symmetrical or built truly according to number and design, and its basic distinction will be the geometrical exactness of its many units. The emotional or astral body is, as is well known, distinguished by its colorfulness. And according to the stage of unfoldment, so will the colors be beautiful, clear and translucent, or ugly, dark and cloudy. The astral body of the adept is a thing of radiant loveliness, lacking all the colors of low vibration. Then the highest aspect of the personal self, the mental body, will vibrate to the highest aspect of the spirit, which is will, power, or strength. Any of these words suffice. Strength, beauty, and form, the reflections of power, love, and activity. These are the characteristics of the body of manifestation of any son of God who has entered into his kingdom. Then the fourth expression conveys the idea of the unity, the coherence of the three, so that they function as a whole and not independently and separately. Man is thus the 3 in 1, and the 1 in 3, as is his Father in heaven, being made in the image of God. As is his Father in heaven, being made in the image of God. Okay, so 3 in 1, 1 in 3. We have this 3 up top. We have this 3 on the bottom. We have the bridging, the Buddhic plane, bringing them together and uniting them. Plane of at-one-ment. Two words are used by translators to convey this idea of compact, cohering force, i.e. the diamond, and the thunderbolt. The human being who has taken the highest of all our planetary initiations is termed the diamond-souled. The diamond-souled, the man who can perfectly transmit the pure white light and yet reflect equally all the colors of the rainbow, the 7 colors of the chromatic scale. His personality is here called by the same term, for it has become a transmitter of the inner light or radiance. The term thunderbolt is equally expressive, conveying, as it does, the idea of electrical force. All that we can know of God or of man is the quality of his energy as it demonstrates in force and activity. Hence, in the secret doctrine, the highest aspect of divinity is called electric fire. I think that's referenced as Fohat, F-O-H-A-T, as well. And the secret of electricity is given to the initiate at the third initiation, based on what the other books are saying. So mastery over the senses, 47, Sutra 47, mastery over the senses is brought about through concentrated meditation upon their nature, peculiar attributes, egoism, pervasiveness, and useful purpose. Sutra 44 dealt very largely with objectivity and the nature of the 5 forms which every element assumes. This sutra concerns itself with that which is subjective and with the subtle apparatus through which forms are contacted and likewise turned to specific purposes. And let's just hold there for 1 second. I want to go back and look at this 44. 5 forms. Smell, taste, sight, touch, sound. These 5 forms are the gross nature, the elemental form, the quality, the pervasiveness, and the basic purpose. All right, and now we are dealing more along the lines with the purpose, right? The nature of the 5 forms. As soon as this sutra concerns itself with that is which is objective, and with the subtle apparatus through which the forms are contacted, and likewise turned to specific purposes. Subjective, that which subtle apparatus, and with the subtle apparatus through which forms are contacted. Okay, so we saw these above again, right? So we are dealing here with the indras or senses, which are usually divided by Hindu philosophers into 10 instead of 5. They divide the 5 senses into 2 groups. Those which we call the organs of sense, such as the eye, nose, etc., and then the faculty, which it makes possible for the eye to see and the nose to smell. In considering the senses, the student studies them, therefore, in 5 connections, and this likewise in relation to their counterparts on the astral and mental planes. So you have the symbol back of the meaning, and the reason, or the reason for the symbol and the meaning. Just spitballing here. Considering these senses, the student studies them therefore in 5 connections, and this likewise in relation to their counterpart on the astral and mental planes. Okay, here are the 5 divisions. Their nature. He studies each sense in its twofold condition, that of the external instrument and the internal capacity of that instrument to respond to certain vibratory impacts. And this is very much science, and this is the nervous system and all of these things. This is really great stuff. And this is, modern science helps us understand these things too. And physics. So he knows why, for instance, the organ of sense called the eye vibrates to those impacts which produce the condition of sight, but fails to respond to those impacts which cause scent or smell. He knows why, for instance, the organ of sense called the eye vibrates to those impacts which produce the condition of sight, but fails to respond to those impacts which cause scent or smell. He discriminates, therefore, between the senses and learns thereby to follow a vibratory impulse back to its source along one or other of the 5 possible lines of approach, and this he does intelligently and not simply blindly. To their peculiar attributes, he studies then the quality of the senses, laying the emphasis not so much upon the particular sense concerned, this is covered above, as upon the peculiar attribute of the sense and of that to which it gives the key in the macrocosm. So we're looking at the correspondences here. The quality, not so much upon the particular sense as upon the attribute of the sense and of that to which it gives the key, and how the correspondence comes into play. And then 3, egoism refers to the I-making faculty, which so predominantly distinguishes the human being and thus brings in the 6th sense, the mind, as the interpreter and synthesizer of the other 5. It is the capacity of the human being to say, I see, I smell, and a thing the animal cannot do. Then we have 4 is pervasiveness. All the senses are capable of infinite extension, and every sense, when consciously followed and utilized, can lead a man in 3 main directions: to the center of all things, back to the heart of God, into close communication with his fellow man, putting him in rapport with him when so desired, and into touch with all forms. So essentially, as I'm seeing this, we can zoom in all the way in, and we can zoom all the way out. To the average man, there is only that which he can hear, touch, see, taste, and smell, only 5 ways in which he can know. There are only 5 responses possible to him as he contacts vibrations of any kind. And in our solar system, there is naught else but vibrating energy, God in active motion. These 5 methods put him in rapport with the 5 elements, and when this is realized, the infinite possibilities open to the aspirant begin to appear. The infinite possibilities open to the aspirant begin to appear. Later, to the advanced man, another and higher range of vibration opens up when he can use the mind itself, not only as the unifier of all the 5 senses, but as the 6th sense also. This is the object of all Raja Yoga practice. Through the mind, the soul realm is cognized, just as through the senses, the objective world was contacted. Can we feel at all where this goes? I think we can slightly here. I'm not trying to really understand it. I'm saying I do believe we can get a sense of this. All right, the 48th Sutra, keep going. As a result of this perfection, there comes rapidity of action like that of mind, perception independent of the organs, and mastery over root substance. We have been considering the many results of the meditation process when carried forward to perfection. We are now reaching a climax. The seer has achieved the consummation of the alignment process. This triple personal self has been purified, adjusted, and controlled. Each of the 3 bodies is vibrating in tune with the note of the ego or higher self, which in turn is in process of synchronizing with the monad or divine self, the spirit on its own plane. And if that's not humbling, my friends, I don't know what is, because that just sums up pretty much what this entire experience has been about in my mind. There, the great son of mind, the thinker on the higher levels of the mental plane, is the dominating factor now, and the result of this domination is triple, each effect manifesting on all planes, yet primarily on one or another. These results are the thinker on the higher levels of the mental plane. Okay, so now we're talking about these three higher levels, the abstract levels of the mind, or the subplanes of the mind, these three higher of the soul. This is the world that's the abstract levels here. The result of this domination, this triple domination here, mind, mental, astral, and physical. The result of this domination is triple, each effect manifesting on all planes, yet primarily on one or another. This is, this is about awareness on these planes, and all of them. All right, so let's see what this domination being triple is about. And here we go. One, these results are one, the rapidity of action like that of the mind. The term swift as a thought is frequently used when an expression of the intensest rapidity is required. In the yogi, his acts on the physical plane are so synchronized with his thought processes, his decisions are so instantaneous, and his ends so swiftly achieved that his physical plane life is characterized by a most startling activity and most amazing results. Of him, it can be said in degree, as is said of the Creator, God meditated, visualized, spoke, and the worlds were made. So at this point, in other words, everything that you think, everything that you see, everything that you do with your hands, your movements, all your words, all of these things are synchronized, and may you have some extreme level of grace at that point, because this is the process, but these things are in line now. You are lined up in alignment, and it's nice. It's using this chart is such a gift because we can see what we're talking about. And it's just awesome that we have this capability. All right, so let's go on here. The second result is perception independent of organs. The adept is not dependent upon the organs of sense for the acquiring of knowledge, nor is he dependent upon the sixth sense, the mind. 1 second. So now intuition is coming into play. With him, the intuition has been developed into a usable instrument because this connection is made here. You can see at these high 3 levels of the mental plane, at once the yogi is, takes this level of, makes it to this level, this initiation, this, this level of consciousness, or he then has this connection. They're there now, right? They've been set up. So now the intuition has been developed into a usable instrument by making contact through the antakarana on these planes, lower plane, so the higher mental planes, higher mental subplanes, higher subplanes of the mental plane. And direct apprehension of all knowledge independently of the reasoning faculty or rationalizing mind is his privilege and right. The mind need no longer be used to apprehend reality. The senses need no longer be employed as mediums of contact. He will employ all 6, but in a different manner. The mind will be utilized as a transmitter to the brain of the wishes and plans and purposes of the one master, the Christ within. The 5 senses will be transmitters of the different types of energy to the chosen objectives, and herein opens a vast field of study for the interested investigator. Yeah, I would say. The eye is one of the most potent transmitters of energy, and it was the knowledge of this in the olden days which gave rise to the belief anent the evil eye. And anent just means about, essentially, about the evil eye. There is much to be discovered concerning sight, for this study will include not only physical vision, but the development of the third eye, clairvoyance, perfect spiritual vision, and on up to that inconceivable mystery covered by the terms the all-seeing eye and the eye of Shiva. The hands are potent factors in all magical work of healing and utilization of the sense of touch in an esoteric science. The sublimation of the sense of hearing and its utilization to hear the voice of the silence or the music of the spheres is a department of occult teaching of the most profound kind, and those adepts who have specialized in the science of sight and the science of sound are some of the most erudite and advanced in the hierarchy. The other senses are capable too of profound unfoldments, but they are peculiarly hidden in the mysteries of initiation. The more about them is not possible here. The 3 senses of hearing, touch, and sight are the 3 characteristics of the 3 human races and the 3 planes in our 3 worlds. Three characteristics of the 3 human races and the 3 planes in our 3 worlds. Hearing related to the physical, touch to the astral, and sight to the mental. In response to the vision, response to touch and sound. The third sense primarily affects our race, and hence the word of the prophet, where there is no vision, the people perish. The development of sight and the achievement of spiritual insight is the great objective of our race and the objective of all Raja Yoga work. This may be called illumination by the mystic or pure vision by the occultist, but it is one and the same thing. Now, what does the Bible say? You have ears to hear and eyes to see. The two other senses are as yet veiled. Their true significance will be unfolded in the sixth or seventh races, which are to succeed ours, and their true relation is to the Buddhic or intuitional and the atmic or spiritual planes. Which, if you made it that far, you'd get you would understand the secrets. So, or we would understand the secrets at that point. So 3, the third result of this triple domination is mastery over root substance. This root substance is the pradhana and is sometimes called the root of all, primordial substance, and root matter. Rama Prasad, in his translation and commentary, has these words: mastery over the pradhana means the power of control over all the modifications of the prakriti. These 3 attainments are obtained by conquering the substantive appearance of the 5 instruments of sensation. It is interesting to note that these 3 attainments demonstrate A, the inability of matter and form to hold the yogi confined, B, the powerlessness of substance to prevent the yogi cognizing any aspect of manifestation he desires, and C, the helplessness of matter to withstand the will of the yogi. This is just like, total freedom and, a total disregard for any limitation. And that's what I see when I see it. I said, well, let's see what this next line says now that I just saw that, my bad. These 3 factors explain how it is that the adept can create at will, and his freedom can create at will, and his freedom from the limitations of matter forms the basis of all white magic. Yeah, it might be noted in conclusion that this capacity is in itself relative, for the adept is freed from limitation in the 3 worlds of human endeavor. The master has perfect freedom of action in the 3 worlds, plus the Buddhic realm, whilst the Christ and those of similar initiation have this freedom in the 5 worlds of human evolution. And these 5 are right here. These, well, we're 5: spiritual, intuitional, mental, emotional, and physical. And the master has freedom of action in the 3 worlds, plus the Buddhic. So the master has domination over the 4, and then the Christ and those of similar initiation have it over the 5. This is a very interesting study here because we want to know what is going on here. And if we think about it, these things are coming down, right? Like, this is a coming down of teachings, of happenings, of significances, of energies, of transitions, and them working out in time. This everything outside of the mental plane, everything from the Buddhic on up, is out of time. It's not. It's timeless, eternal. All right, let's do 49. The man who can discriminate between the soul and the spirit achieves supremacy over all conditions and becomes omniscient. The condition of the man who can do this has been well described in the comments of Charles Johnston on this sutra, and the beauty of his thought will be seen by the study of his words as follows. The spiritual man is enmeshed in the web of the emotions, desire, fear, ambition, passion, and impeded by the mental forms of separateness and materialism. When these meshes are sundered, but taken apart, these obstacles completely overcome, then the spiritual man stands forth in his own wide world, strong, mighty, and wise. He uses divine powers with a divine scope and energy, working together with divine companions. To such a one, it is said, "Thou art now a disciple, able to stand, able to hear, able to see, able to speak. Thou hast conquered desire and attained to self-knowledge. Thou hast seen thy soul in its bloom and recognized it and heard the voice of the silence." The wonderful synthesis of the teaching is nowhere more apparent than in this sutra, for the point reached here is of higher order again than the one referred to in Book 2. Sutra 45 and intermediate to the condition mentioned there, and that referred to in Book 4, Sutra 30 and 34. So in Book 1, Sutra 4, we find the true meaning entangled in the meshes of the psychic nature and the light in him veiled and hidden. By learning to discriminate between the true self and the lower personal self, he disentangles himself. The light which is in him is seen and he is liberated. Having achieved liberation, developed the soul powers, and attained mastery, there opens up before him a still vaster and wider experience and realization. He can begin to expand his consciousness from the planetary to the solar, and group consciousness can be developed into God consciousness. The first step towards this is stated in the sutra we are now considering, which is more fully dealt with and hinted at in the final book. The rules for this expansion are not given, for they concern the development of the master and the unfoldment of the Christ into that higher state of being which is for him possible. But the fourth book touches on the preparatory stages and hints at further possibilities. Here, the first basic requirement is touched upon: discrimination between the soul, the Christ within, and the spirit or father aspect. Intelligent activity has been demonstrated based upon an unfoldment of the love nature. With safety, now the spirit or will aspect can be developed and the power delivered into the hands of the Christ. And we're talking about this up here. This is intelligence activity. Intelligent activity has been demonstrated based upon an unfoldment of the love nature. And now, with safety, now the spirit or will aspect here can be developed and the power delivered into the hands of the Christ. Three terms serve to throw light on this process of unfoldment. The first great realization which the aspirant has to achieve is that of the omnipresence. He has to realize his unity with all and the oneness of his soul with all other souls. He has to find God in his own heart and in every form of life. Then, as an initiate, he arrives at omniscience, or all knowledge, and the halls of learning and of wisdom render up to him their secrets. He becomes a Christ, a knower of all things, knowing what is in the heart of the Father, and in the hearts of men. Finally, he can eventually achieve omnipotence or all power when the keys of heaven will be handed to the Son of Man and all power will be his. The 50th Sutra. By a passionless attitude towards his attainment and towards all soul powers, the one who is free from the seeds of bondage attains the condition of isolated unity. The isolated unity referred to here is that of complete separation from all form aspects and the achievement of spiritual oneness. It is aloofness from the material consciousness and a living in the spiritual consciousness. It is harmony with the spirit and disharmony with matter. It involves identification with the Father in heaven and a true understanding of the word of the Master of all the masters, I and my Father are one. A proper sense of values has been established, and the powers which have been developed and the perceptions which have been gained are seen as having in them the seeds of bondage, and therefore with them the true yogin does not concern himself. At will and in service, he will perceive that which is needed. At will and in service, he will employ the occult powers, but he himself remains detached and freed from all karmic limitations. Let's do the 51, and then we'll call it there. There should be entire rejection of all allurements from all forms of being, even the celestial, for the recurrence of evil contacts remains possible. This is a renunciation. All right. Rama Prasad's translation is illuminating and should be quoted here. It runs as follows. When the presiding deities invite, there should be no attachment and no smile of satisfaction, contact with the undesirable being again possible. And Dvaiti interpretation gives still another angle. There should be entire distinction of pleasure or pride in the invitations by the powers of various places, where there's possibility of the repetition of evil. The yogin or disciple has achieved his objective. He has, through dispassion and discrimination, freed himself from the trammels of forms and stands free and liberated. But he needs to be on his guard, for let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. Don't get nilly-willy. We don't turn back. We don't look, we don't stop and pat ourselves on the back. We don't have pride in this. There's none of that. There really isn't any of that. You would have to go, I want to say you have to go out of your way at some point to re-pride yourself and come back to make some strange turn. But take heed lest you fall. Until it's perfected. We're not looking around, right? We're moving straight ahead. We got blinders on, essentially spiritual blinders. Form life ever beckons, and the allurements of the great illusion are ever present. The emancipated soul must turn his eyes away from the invitation of the presiding deities. Those lives who in the three worlds form the sum total of plain life, and fix them on those more spiritual aspects which constitute the life of God himself. Even the realm of the soul itself and the voice of the gods as it is called, are seen to have latent in them the seeds of attachment. Therefore, turning his back upon all that he has gained and putting behind him all thought of the perfections achieved and the powers developed, the Son of God, the Christ in manifestation, again presses forward towards a higher goal. At every stage of the path, the injunction sounds forth, forgetting the things which are behind, press forward, from Philippians 4. And every new initiation but marks the commencement of a new cycle of endeavor. Yeah, every new initiation is an entering into, not the other way around. It's not a completion, it's entering into a new field of service and endeavor and consciousness. Commentators upon this sutra point out that there are 4 classes of chelas or disciples. These are those whom the light is just beginning to illumine. They are called observant of practice and are those who are just entering the path. These are the probationers, the aspirants. We have those whose intuition is awakening and who demonstrate a corresponding development of psychic power. This is a stage of great danger, for such disciples are apt to be allured by the possibilities of power which the possession of psychic faculty opens up. They are apt to be deluded and to consider that psychic power is an indication of spiritual growth and unfoldment. Such is not the case. And we have those disciples who have overcome all sense attractions and cannot be deluded by the form aspect. In the 3 worlds, they have conquered the senses and are victors over the form nature. And then we have those who have passed beyond all the above and who stand firm in the true spiritual consciousness. These are the illuminated ones who have progressed through the 7 stages of illumination. Now, this range, as we see, is made clear down here, this is a big range. It runs the whole spectrum. If the student will hear study book 3, Sutra 26, and the commentary upon it, he will gain some idea of the nature of these worlds of form and their presiding deities, whose voices seek to lure the aspirant off the path into the realm of illusion. He will find it also of interest to contrast and compare the first 4 classes of spirits enumerated there with these 4 types of disciples. Everything in the 3 worlds is a reflection of that which is found in the heavenly realm, and much may be gained through a comprehension of the great Hermetic aphorism, as above, so below. Of course. And everything, when he says everything in the 3 worlds is a reflection, everything in the worlds is a reflection. So, what more do you need? What more do we need to hear? That reflection is what constitutes evil. That reversed aspect of reality forms the great illusion, and with these the sons of God have no concern. It is evil where they are concerned, but in no other sense. So there'll be a new heaven and a new earth. And where are you? Right? What are we living in this and partaking in this, really lower stuff, or are we not living in the reflection, but in what is real? In reality, I don't know. I'm just asking questions here. The forms of life in these worlds and the lives animating those forms are good and right in themselves and are pursuing their own evolutionary path, but their immediate objective and their state of consciousness is not synchronized with that of the evolving disciple, and therefore with them there must be no trafficking. And hence the reason you've lost all your, all, I don't say all, why you lost many friends and separated from most of the others, and why we're drawn to each other now, and because we can commune with each other and raise each other up and walk together in understanding, and not be deluding each other and trying to drag each other down back into the lower three. We ourselves are not, evil in that way anymore, if we will. We're not drawn to evil, and learning what is evil is really probably that simple. It's anything that draws you back down, and then if you have to figure out what it is that brings you down, that's a separate kind of a thing. But it's anything that draws us back down and creates fear and all these things that are hindrances. Anything that's creating a hindrance to the path is really what we might call evil. But then now we're moving past that at this point. Well, I think we're going to leave these last couple. So we'll have one more video before we get to the last book. Just great stuff. I look forward to seeing this next, where all this goes. Now we're going to do a video with Carla later this afternoon regarding astrology. You can look for it. It'll be on the channel. We hadn't done a video with her in a while, so I would say, it's definitely going to be worthy of listening to Carla. That's always a good thing. Can't go wrong with that. Okay. See you soon.